Imagine waking up in the morning, putting on a leather coat, gloves, a hat, and a mask with a beak stuffed full of herbs. No, you're not going to a costume party. You're going to work. Your job is to treat people suffering from a disease that kills about half of everyone who gets it. And the best part, you have absolutely no idea how it works. Welcome to Plague-era Europe, where medicine is basically a mix of guesswork, superstition, and extreme confidence. They believe the disease spread through bad air, so they stuff flowers, herbs, and spices into their beak masks. There's just one small problem. It doesn't work. But here's the weird part. Despite all this creative medicine, their outfit actually helped sometimes. They just had no idea why. Today, we're breaking down a full day in the life of someone with one of the strangest and most dangerous jobs in history, the plague doctor. So, who exactly was a plague doctor? Basically, it was a person hired during outbreaks to, well, do a bit of everything. They examined the sick, recorded who died, sometimes tried to treat patients, and most likely didn't fully understand what was actually going on. This was because medical knowledge at the time was extremely limited, so treatments were based not on science, but on assumptions and the theories of that era. A plague doctor's morning started early, sometimes too early. A few seconds to come to your senses and remember where you are and what you do. And then the realization hits. Today is just like yesterday. After that, preparation for work. First, protective clothing, a heavy thick coat, gloves, a hat. But the most unusual part, the mask. Its beak was filled with herbs, spices, and all kinds of mixtures. It was believed this would protect against bad air. And just like that, you're ready for work. The workday usually began with visiting the sick. And more often than not, it wasn't a pleasant sight. Examinations were done from a safe distance, often using a stick. He recorded symptoms and noted who didn't survive. And then treatment, if you could even call it that. These treatments mainly involved cutting open or cauterizing plague buboes. Some doctors also used other methods, such as placing frogs or leeches on the buboes to balance the body's humors, as well as common practices of the time like bloodletting. The problem is, it almost never worked, because no one understood how the disease actually worked. In the Middle Ages, the cause of the plague was unknown, which made treatments ineffective. Let's take a closer look at the treatment methods used by doctors of that time. Spoiler, it's going to be strange. Medicine back then wasn't based on science. Why is it but on theories and assumptions? One of the main ideas was the balance of bodily humors. If that balance was disturbed, a person became ill. That's why one of the most common methods was bloodletting. It was believed that if you released the excess blood, the body would recover. In reality, it usually made things worse. Another method was cauterizing or cutting open plague buboes. These were painful swellings on the body. The idea was simple. Remove the bad from the body. Sounds logical? But it didn't work. And now, the strangest part. Some doctors placed frogs on the buboes, or leeches. It was believed they would draw out the disease. Yes, exactly that. And of course, the famous mask. Its beak was filled with herbs, spices, and various mixtures, because people believed the disease spread through bad air. And here's the main question. Did any of this actually work? Short answer, no. Almost all of these treatment methods, were useless. They believed the problem was bad air, but in reality, the disease was spread by bacteria and carried by rats and fleas. But there's one strange detail, sometimes their outfit actually helped. The thick coat, gloves, and mask accidentally protected them from infection. They just didn't understand why. So yes, it looked convincing, but it worked. Barely at all. But all of that wasn't even the worst part. The worst was yet to come, because every day you were surrounded by the disease, very close. And despite all that protective clothing, you could still get infected. Many doctors ended up getting sick themselves, and often died. And the strangest part? You kept doing the job every day, knowing how it could end. And that's what a day in the life of a plague doctor looked like. Strange, dangerous, and often the last one. They didn't know how the disease worked. They didn't understand what caused it, and yet they still tried to treat it. Today things are different. We understand the causes, we know how to protect ourselves, and we know how to treat diseases. But back then, these were people who went where no one else wanted to go, and maybe they didn't fully understand what they were doing, but they still tried to save others. And that's why the plague doctor became one of the strangest and most memorable figures in history. And that's what a day in the life of a plague doctor looked like. Strange, right? What do you think? Could you work under those conditions? If you found this interesting, consider subscribing. There are plenty more strange stories here. See you next time.